All right, welcome everybody. This is the Burlington Street Bridge Public Information Meeting. This is a project partnership with the City of Iowa City, the University of Iowa, the Iowa DOT, and the Metropolitan Planning Organization of Johnson County. Also like to introduce our design team. HDR is our lead. They've partnered with Anderson Bogart, McLaughlin Whitewater, Tallgrass Archaeology, and Biosurvey Group. They've got a nice presentation prepared for you tonight. And with that, I'd like to hand it off to Kristen with HDR.
All righty. Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to come join us and learn about this project. We really appreciate it. We know everyone's busy. So quickly, guidelines for engagement. So the goal, we have some we want to get feedback to advance a preferred alternative. So this project has not had any final design. It is in the very, very, very early planning stages of this. So we're still looking for input from this group of folks. We want to use it to help make good decisions for this area so we can refine the concept so that it's functional, affordable, and acceptable so we can move forward to that design stage. With that, I will pass it off to Mike. He's going to go over a background, and then we'll talk about the alternatives.
Thank you. All right, so now I get to tell you what we've been up to for the last handful of months. So project started off, we did a lot of data collection, information gathering, meeting with stakeholders. Part of that data collection, we did our environmental reviews and then submitted our environmental documentation to the Iowa DOT. And then from that first round of stakeholder engagement, we developed our first round of alternatives. So we'll show them to you here in just a minute. But again, we're in that next round of stakeholder involvement. And before we get on to developing preferred alternatives, we'd like to get input from this group and from our other stakeholder groups as well. So then end of November, we would look to advance a single preferred alternative to design. So that's kind of the end of the planning schedule. So just to quickly highlight what the different stakeholder groups are that are engaged with this project. Starting off at the top is our Technical Advisory Committee. This is our decision-making committee. It's made up of the City of Iowa City, University of Iowa, Iowa DOT, and the MPO of Johnson County. Then we have our stakeholder working group. This is a group that relies on Burlington Street Bridge for critical functions. Then we meet with our one-on-one with stakeholders. Those meetings are groups of folks that are directly impacted by the project. We learn about specific constraints, operations, critical functions, things that need to be considered in order to make our alternatives feasible. And then we'll engage with the public. And we engage with everyone here in a couple different ways, through public forum like this and a public meeting, through electronic survey, and we have a project email that you can write to at any time and we'll respond. On top of that, we'll provide updates to governing bodies and elected officials. And then to make sure that we're not designing in a silo, but looking at a regional impact as well, we reference previous planning documents and studies. So we make sure it's contextual for the area. So just a quick highlight on the last public meeting. We had pretty good attendance last time. And I'm actually going to challenge everybody here and listening online and looking at the recording here. But our first electronic survey that runs 15 days prior to this public meeting and 15 days after received almost 300 responses last time. So I guess I'm challenging everybody to break that record. The current one is ongoing, so we're always going to direct you to take that survey. What I can say is that we look at every single comment, so your comments do matter. They do shape how the alternatives are progressed. And just a couple quick metrics here that are shown up there from the first electronic survey. There's some clear outliers there. So I guess your input is kind of looked at a whole as well, and there are definitely some common threads that need to be addressed. So we have all of this information. We've met with all of the stakeholders. So how do we move this thing forward? Well, we take this information and develop the project wants and needs. So we took the common interests, the common constraints, common issues, unique issues as well that needed to be considered, and we advanced those with the help of our advisory committee. So we group those into like areas and then present them to our committee as either a want or a need. So I'm going to take you through some of those needs, and I have noted here where they match up with a council strategic area as well. So let's see, the first one here for bikes and pedestrians is creating a lower stress, ADA compliant and dedicated space to bike and walk, designing safer roads and intersections that function for all modes, creating and enabling safe, reliable, and convenient transit service and stops. For emergency response, we have prioritize emergency vehicle access to the medical center during and after construction. Then developing a sense of place that is safe and attractive, minimizing construction impacts and disruptions to traffic, adjacent businesses, and properties. And then with the Burlington Street Dam, the primary focus and need was safety. Then for some of the wants was the ownership, looking at design that would accommodate some specific maintenance equipment, looking at emergency service preemption at some of the intersections, having game day staff as part of the reviewers, having the Burlington Street Bridge as accessible at all times, and then looking at recreation through the Burlington Street Dam. And then as always, some project constraints, cost, I think with every single project, looking at constructability, staged or closed construction for the bridge, environmental impacts, utility impacts, and property owner impacts. So it's a lot of information, a lot of needs. So how do we advance into actual alternative development? Well, we take kind of all feasible opportunities within the region here, and then we compare that with the technical feasibility from a design perspective, both using state standards and from current design standards as well, and filter out initially what won't work for the area. Then we take that and compare that against the project needs and filter that out again. If it doesn't meet the project needs, it wouldn't get carried forward. So out of the things that do meet the project needs, check all the boxes, we meet with our advisory committee and discuss the positives and negatives to each one of those alternatives. The ones that had the greatest benefit were advanced. So that's where we are here into our concept alternatives. So we've already pre-filtered all of this out to what is feasible and what meets the project needs. So taking a closer look at each one of these areas, we've divided this into 4 key areas. This just allows us to take more of a bite-sized look at this. There's many different options that can be mixed and matched. So we'll take you kind of through every one of these 4 different areas in detail. And starting with the first area is the Burlington Street Bridge. And I will hand it off to Jeff Morrow with Anderson Bogert.
All right, let's talk about bridges. This first slide is just sort of like an aerial view. It's like you're a bird looking down on Burlington Street Bridge. And you can see this heavy line here is like we're going to take a big slice with a giant knife and cut that bridge and look at it on end. And we'll be looking the direction of the arrows, which is east. So as I said, we're looking at the bridge. The vehicles going away from you into the screen are going eastbound towards downtown, and the vehicles coming at you are going westbound toward the hospital. There's a median dividing traffic. All of the options kind of have the same traffic lane arrangement for the vehicles. We've got 3 of these. They all have a pedestrian way on the south side of the bridge, wider pedestrian way on the north side of the bridge. That's where we expect the east-west pedestrians, the students commuting from campus to the dorms and back. We expect them to use that predominantly. But there's also this 2-way bicycle way that's in the green pavement there that's kind of on its own. It's sort of like having a trail next to your roadway, but it's bikes only. And that kind of keeps all of those separate. This option has a median between the bikes and the vehicles, and then a more heftier barrier, if you will, between the bikes and the pedestrians. This next option, again, the vehicle part is the same, but we've moved that barrier over between the bikes and the vehicles. And this kind of keeps it more open where the pedestrians and bicycles are. One of the advantages of this is if you have a big event like a football game and you need to get a big crush of pedestrians across the bridge, you could utilize that bicycle space if you needed to. That's going to be like, what, 1% of the time. 99% of the time, it's just going to operate as a bikeway and a pedestrian way. And then this option here just has a very separated barriers between the three different modes of travel that we've looked at. The pedestrians are separated from the bikes, which are separated from the cars. So let's talk about the crossings, the intersection of Riverside and Burlington Street. You can see here the existing roadway intersects at kind of a sharp angle. So Grand kind of comes in at this very acute angle, I think that's the right word, with Burlington Street. We're trying to straighten that out and make it more straight across. And what that does is a couple things. One, it helps with these left turns can turn at the same time. Like today, you feel like you're going to run into the opposing traffic, so we're trying to fix that. We're also adding some more storage in the turn lanes because sometimes those kind of run out of storage. They fill up with cars or they get blocked. And you can see that we're pretty close to the alignment of that north side bridge. We're encroaching on that spiral. That's that spiral that goes up today. But more or less pretty close to that north bridge alignment. We are moving Riverside over to the west to provide some more space between the river and the roadway because we need space for pedestrians, a trail, and so forth. So let's just add on the bicycle way. That's that same two-way bicycle way we talked about on that north side. These bicycles will continue, if you're going east-west, they will continue through the traffic signal across Riverside. They will also have the option to continue north or south on the trail along the east side of Riverside. And then we throw in the pedestrians, and this is where it gets pretty busy. For pedestrians, we're still looking at a very similar arrangement, crossing Riverside with an overpass and crossing Grand with an overpass like you do today. And we'll talk about some more of these different crossings, but we're going to focus on ways to get up to these overpasses in these next few slides. So we looked at 4 options, and I'll go through each one in more detail. We've got just a long ramp that goes north. You're kind of looking southwest, so the river's here, campuses, or the dorms are up here, hospitals up here. So you're looking at a long ramp that goes on the north on Riverside. We also looked at a switchback ramp, so still the same length of ramp, but just doubling back on itself. And then spirals, kind of like what you have today, except the spirals that are out there today are not compliant with Americans with Disabilities Act. So these would be, they stretch out that spiral and get you those more gentle slopes. So let's look at that first one, the big long ramp. If you are traveling on the north side of the bridge, Burlington Street, and you want to cross Riverside Drive, if you're able, there would be some sort of stairway to get up, and then you would go across just like you do today. Or you could, if you need ADA accessibility, you would just be at grade, you'd take a right, you'd walk on the sidewalk along Riverside, about 450 feet, then you make a U-turn and go another 450 feet up and then cross. So that's where that 900 feet is. It's 450 feet each way. 450 feet is about a long block on a street, so in a neighborhood. So then we look at the folded ramp, and the advantage of this is it cuts the distance in half. You're just doing the ramp up and making that U-turn. So you're just doing 225 and 225 and you're up. Same thing, if you're able, you can use the stairs and get up and cross. Then we've got the spiral, which again, you've got that today, except this is compliant. And again, we may have some stairs that'll get you apart or all the way up to the top. Or if you need that ADA accessibility, you just get on the bottom of that ramp and you take 2 revolutions to get all the way up, and then you go across. Last one, this is what's called an offset spiral. Same idea as a spiral, it just has some different directions on it. This gives you opportunities for better views. Kind of gives you the impression you're not really going as far. It's still the same distance, 450 feet like the other 2, 3, and 4. But it gives you different perspectives as you're coming up, a view over the river and then back, and then maybe a view down along the trail and back up. All right, so that's how we get across Riverside. Let's talk about crossing Burlington Street. There's basically 3 options that we looked at. The first one is at grade. That's what you have today. There's a crosswalk. You cross with the signal. And then we're showing that elongated spiral, but essentially the same concept as what we have today. The other way is to put an underpass underneath Burlington Street. So it would be like what you have at Iowa Avenue. So again, not an unusual concept. It is here. And then the third one would be an overpass. And we talked about all the different ways you can get up. We would do that on one side, go across, overhead. And then probably on this side, since we're more constrained for space, it probably would be a spiral that's more compact, but it wouldn't have to be. So those are the different crossings. I think with that, we're going to start looking at West Campus alternatives with Jacob Weiss.
Thank you. All right. So Jeff went over everything kind of the east, both the bridge and the intersection with Riverside. We're going to head a little bit further west. You can still kind of see some of those crossing options that Jeff was mentioning earlier, kind of on the right side of the figure there. But for West Campus, we want to talk about 3 main bullets, and I have some slides that kind of break down these 3 bullets. So the first is converting Byington Road and Melrose Ave to 2-way traffic. The second is converting Grand Ave to a pedestrian-friendly area kind of between the dorms there with a transit hub and some amenities for students to get safely on and off the bus. And then lastly, adding some bicycle and pedestrian connections. And I'll break these down in the next few slides. To talk about the 2-waying of Byington and Melrose, it's good to look at kind of what exists there today. So bird's eye view again. On the left side, this is how traffic currently gets through the West Campus area. So if you're heading west on Grand Avenue, you continue west on Grand Avenue, go through the roundabout, head south, stop, and then take a right and continue on your way if you want to kind of get through. In the build condition or the proposed traffic patterns that you see on the right, if you're heading west, you actually head south along Byington Road and then west along Melrose Ave. So essentially, no having to wait for pedestrians that are waiting to get on the bus or kind of jumping in front of the traffic in that area. You have more of a bypass route that you can kind of get around campus without conflicting with all those pedestrians getting on and off the bus or walking between those dorms. You kind of see in the red area that we talk about that campus life and that transit area. That would also provide access for the existing dorm facilities to get shipments. So we have specific times for folks to pick up and drop off things that need to be delivered to those dorms as well. Here's that in CAD. So essentially, we're showing the 2-way Byington Melrose. Again, that's what you see with those 2 arrows. We're still determining the number of lanes for that for that, but we have a board over here that we have some more details that I can talk to you after this presentation if you want to kind of dive into what options we're considering. In that red area along Grand Ave, that gives us the opportunity to have more of a pedestrian mall, right? We'd have opportunities for students to kind of walk wherever they want to in that area because there isn't a ton of traffic going through there anymore. They can walk to the bus stop, get off the bus, or have different amenities throughout that Grand Ave kind of pedestrian-friendly area. In terms of transit hub considerations, there's a lot of options that we've looked through, but the main two that we're kind of leaning towards, there can always be others that kind of pop their head up as we continue on this kind of early planning stages. But essentially what the buses would do would be they would follow the two-way Byington Melrose traffic, get over to South Grand, head up to that pedestrian mall area, pick up and drop off students, head back to Melrose, and then head on their way. So essentially those buses would follow those arrows that I've drawn along Byington and Melrose. The couple options that we have along Grand Ave, we could orient the buses kind of east-west to be picked up in that pedestrian-friendly space, or we could keep them on South Grand and essentially just make a little bit larger kind of roundabout radial type movements for those buses to come up, loop around, and head back to the south. So still determining what would be best, and we'd love to hear your input on that over at the board after the presentation. And lastly, bike and ped connections. So we know today those bike lanes that go across the bridge kind of stop at Riverside, and then you're kind of stuck in with traffic. Jeff mentioned that we are looking at a two-way bikeway on the north side of Burlington, which would stay on the north side along Grand Ave. Once we get to the Byington connection, that's where we would determine whether we would go Route A or Route B or both. So Route A would get those students to their dorms or maybe bike parking. Route B could be for folks that are maybe traveling through the campus area. So we're still determining kind of the best route for those bikes to go, but definitely want to include and remove any of those gaps in the bike system through West Campus.
Everybody in the law building would go across the overpass, correct?
That is the plan. We're also looking at some potential crossings on Melrose or Byington. We're still determining that. And lastly, I'm going to drop it off to Mike for the dam alternatives.
Thank you, Jake. All right, so then some of the Burlington Street dam alternatives that were advanced at a minimum would include improved ability for river recovery. So all the options would enhance what's there today. Since it doesn't quite exist today, it's a little difficult to get to, so we would improve that ability for river recovery. And then some of the options that might be included moving forward with our alternatives is extra dam safing. So one of the options shown here is just dam safing steps that kind of removes the current at the current roller dam. So if you go over, it's not fatal. Some of the other alternatives that might be advanced or may include are access to the river's edge. So based on the precedent imagery here, that can kind of take a lot of different forms, all the way up to the river, short of the river, kind of anywhere in between. Then we have the ability to include a fish passage or small boat passage. And then the ability to swim or wade in the water. And then lastly, surfing, whitewater recreation, or tubing. So any of those recreation options that I showed can be mixed and matched. All can be included, some or none. So kind of the whole range there for dam recreation and dam safety improvements. So then the last thing that we wanted to touch on, it's very important, is project construction impacts. So construction is not going to be fun. It's going to be very disruptive. It's going to be painful at times. And we are considering that with every alternative. We need to look at constructability as well to make sure that whatever we're selecting can be constructed. Part of that is some of the phase considerations. So we have different timeline considerations with those. The option up at the top allows Burlington Street Bridge to stay open pretty much at all times. I think at a minimum, we would have kind of a bi-weekly closure just at night for material deliveries. So this is just kind of the general day-to-day sense. So the first option, again, bridge open for traffic and pedestrian use. Then the second option that can shave about a year off that construction timeline is summer critical closures, so closing access across Burlington Street just for the summer months. And then lastly is the full closure option. Very disruptive, but can shave that construction timeline down quite a bit. So all of those are being evaluated, and partnered with that is what the detour looks like for each one of those options. So just to highlight here some of the nearest detour options down Iowa Avenue. There's constraints with that. There's height restrictions with the rail bridge that goes over that. And then down at Benton Street as well, Iowa DOT is working on a bridge project as well, so we wouldn't want to close or have any closures on Burlington Street Bridge while Benton Street is also closed. So we have kind of the out of distance travel there, but just to note, again, we know construction is going to be a headache, so trying to look at options there as well. And with that, I will kick it back to Kristen.
All right. I'll go ahead and just wrap us up quick, and then we'll have some closing thoughts, and I'll explain some of the activities that we have that we'd like you to provide your feedback through. So first things first, next steps. After our public meeting, we really do take your feedback into consideration. So please spend the time to talk with our team members, let them know your thoughts, participate in our activities. Take that survey. That's not the last time I'll mention it during wrap up. And then we use that to refine the alternatives. Once we do that, the project team determines the final preferred alternatives with our technical advisory committee. So Justin at the beginning had mentioned some of our project partners with Iowa DOT, et cetera. So we'll do that here within the next month or so. And then we will present that final preferred alternative to the stakeholder working group that Mike mentioned earlier. We've met with them throughout the course of this project development. We want to close that loop with that group, and we'll do that in November. And then we will come back to this room during a city council meeting and present the final preferred concepts for acceptance to city council. So I'm going to let Justin wrap us up, say some closing words, and then I'll talk about the activities real quick.
Thanks, Kristen. Again, my contact information, Justin Arlen, is up on the screen right now, and you can also find it on the project website. If she didn't make it a point, please make it a point to go take the survey. If you walk out of here and you have different questions or one pops in your head, don't be afraid to use that project email and get a hold of us. So we're always happy to answer any questions you might have. So with that, I think Kristen's got some fun activities for you, and I'll hand it back to her.
Thank you. So we have some Zoom folks. So the Zoom folks at the beginning, we linked a survey. We will do that one more time, so you can click that link and take the survey, participate through that. We have the QR code and URL to that survey right up on a board. You're welcome to take that. If you have really detailed comments you just want to write out later after you leave this room, please, please, please do that and encourage your friends, family, and your network to take that survey. What we're going to do now is we'll adjourn the meeting. We'll let our Zoom people take the survey, and we have some marble activities where we're asking for your preferences. We have kind of a scale activity as well that we want you to take off to your right of the room. And then anyone with a name tag can answer your questions. So please feel free to do that. And again, just really appreciate your time with us this evening, and let's have some good conversation. Thanks, everyone.